Let's get this show on the road. So first of all, welcome everybody to the iHub. We're glad to see you this evening. We're going to have one of our fun Fireside Chat events with a very special guest today. Fireside Chat, let me just give you some background on it. Well, first of all, you're sitting in the iHub. So the iHub is about innovation in technology, and it's about entrepreneurs and startups, and so we deal a lot with the corporate side, right? The big tech guys. We try and connect you to them. That's what Fireside Chats are about, where we bring in the big corporate CEOs and CTOs and let you ask them questions directly, let them tell their story. So the Fireside Chat format is quite simple. The first half hour, 45 minutes, we're going to have our guest Bob Collymore, CEO of Safaricom, come and talk to us about how he got to where he is, lessons learned along the way, maybe some stuff about Safaricom, some kind of fun insider information that we might not know, that kind of stuff, right? And then the second part, the second half, and I'll start this off, is us asking questions. So you've had a question, a burning question for Safaricom. This is your chance to ask. Okay, so without any further ado, let me hand the mic over to Mr. Bob Collymore, the CEO of Safaricom, and let's all give him a warm iHub welcome.
I have to confess that I was brought here under slightly false pretenses because this whole Fireside Chat thing, he just told me what it was about when I got here. I've had mixed commentary. On the one hand, if I watch the BBC, I hear that this is the place that if you're in Nairobi and you haven't come to see the iHub, then you're missing something big. But I've also heard people say, actually someone said to me, I think it was early this week, it'd be interesting to see what you think, because I think it's a bit oversold. So we'll see. My own team, and I have some of them here, and I'll just introduce them just very briefly. So I have Nzioka, who is my Director of Corporate Affairs. I have Ken, who is one of our heads of divisions in the technical team. They're both Kenyan, so you'll notice they just turned up just in time. And I have the new Frenchman. I think somebody asked me this question, why did you think you have to hire a Frenchman? So I have Thibault. He is rapidly acquiring the nickname of T-Bone, because it is French and it's very hard for us to pronounce. And so my PA said, just remember T-Bone steak. And as it happened, we were both up country yesterday with the Vice President, who also called him T-Bone. So I guess from now, he will be known as T-Bone. But T-Bone has just been with us for the past less than a week. And it really is a great opportunity for him to come meet you guys. So, Eric said that I'm going to spend half an hour talking about what's got me to where I am. I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not going to spend half an hour talking about that, because it doesn't take half an hour to talk about where someone as young as me have got to where I have. I haven't really got that. Although it's my birthday tomorrow. Thank you. I've dropped so many hints to my team. If I don't get presents tomorrow, you guys are in so much trouble. So just very briefly, and really it will just take a couple of minutes, but I want to talk a little bit more about Safaricom, my perspective on Safaricom, rather than about me. So I'm probably the least educated person in this room. Can I take my jacket off? I'm probably the least educated person in this room. I was born, as Rachel knows, about 35 years ago. I was born in Guyana about 54 years ago. And I left there when I was 16. I then went to the UK to join my mother and finished my secondary education there. Couldn't afford, this is the soft story bit. It's the excuse of being stupid, actually. My parents couldn't afford to send me to university, so I didn't. So I joined, I did a few things, like I painted pictures and stuff like that. And then eventually entered the telecommunications market. Fortunately, in those days, it wasn't as complex as it is now. So we didn't have to be as bright as you guys to do stuff. So I blagged my way around for a while, then joined the mobile phone company, which is now O2, in about 19, I can't remember how long ago it was. But from there I then moved on to retail, spent a few years in retail, still in the telecommunications sector, and then joined Vodafone in 1998. I was privileged to have been sent. I said been sent because I didn't volunteer. My boss said to me, "Look, we've just taken control of this company called JPhone, which then became Vodafone. Just taken majority control, and these guys have just got a 3G license. And you know what the Japanese are like? They're going to go and develop their own 3G, and we'd rather like it if they develop the same 3G as everybody else. And so we want to put a team there. We want someone to be in charge of that team, and we want you to do it." And I said, "That's great. How much time do you see me spending in Japan?" And he said, "I see you living in Japan." And I said, "No, thanks. Really appreciate the thought, but I don't like Japan. It's actually fairly complicated. For those of you who live there, it's a fairly complicated place to live if you don't, if you're not Japanese." Anyway, I went home and I told my wife. I said to her, "I must talk to you." I was feeling a little unwell that night. I said, "I must talk to you because I want to." She says, "What about?" I said, "I'm going to Japan." She says, "Why are you talking to me about your business trips?" I said, "No, it's not a business trip. I'm going to live in Japan. But look, I'm really feeling, I've got a high temperature, I'm going to go to bed. I'll talk to you later." And I left my wife with this thought. And the next morning, she says, "Okay, fine." I said, "Okay, fine what?" She says, "Okay, fine, we go to Japan." I says, "Come on, you've never even been to Japan." Anyway, we lived in Japan for 3 years, and it was a great experience because Japan, as you know, is a place that really takes technology very seriously. Everything they do is technology driven, including going to the toilet. Who's been to Japan? Okay, so I can't make the stories up there. Shucks. But in Japan, even when you go to the toilet, there's a kind of his and hers thing. There's electronic, you can play recorded sounds so that people can't hear what you're doing. I don't know what they think you're going to be doing. So everything was technology driven, and it was a great time to be there because a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing now, they were doing there a few years ago. And when people talk to me about my African experience, and I've worked in Africa now for about 5 years or so, they're talking about African experience, particularly the Kenyan experience. And I say to them that they tend to compare us to Europe or Paris or Frankfurt. And I say you're comparing us to the wrong thing. You have to compare us to Japan and Korea. And the first thing is that in Japan, not many people actually access the internet via a laptop. Most people access it via a handheld device. We had mobile payments in Japan a few years ago, and we've seen in Kenya, we've leapfrog. We leapfrog the whole European experience, and so now, for the first time, some people on a mobile phone. As the first time they speak on a phone, it will be on a mobile phone. The first time they access the internet, it will be on a handheld device. And actually, there are tens of thousands of people who will never own a laptop and will probably not even ever access the internet on a PC. It will always be on a handheld device. And so, we learned a lot about behavior. I learned a lot about behavior from spending the time in Japan. From there, I went to South Africa. How many of you are South Africans here? Good. I can offend them as much. Oh, I forgot about the streaming thing. So South Africa is a very interesting country for lots of reasons. But South Africa also thinks themselves as being, the leader in Africa. And I have to say that even in the 1 year that I've been here in Kenya, I found this to be a much more vibrant technology market and environment than South Africa ever was, for lots of different reasons. And so when I was offered the job here, and it was a surprise that I was offered the job, one, because I didn't apply for it, and two, because I didn't think that I was capable of doing the job. After a year, I'm still not so sure. Ken doesn't smile. But Michael came to me in Johannesburg and said, "Look, we're struggling to find a replacement. and I think you can do the job. And I said, I don't. He says, well, I do. And I've been doing it for 10 years, so I know what's required. And I said, well, I've got some shortcomings. He said, yeah, but the good thing is we know what your shortcomings are, so we can work with those. And so I was very flattered when the board finally says, fine, you can have the job, but don't tinker with things too much. And having come here, there's not a lot to be tinkered with. However, there is a cultural issue to be tinkered with. And so we're not going to get into the whole Safaricom, my perception on perspective on Safaricom. One of the first things I did when I came to the company is I went across my direct reports. There were quite a few of them at the time. There were about 15 of them, 13 of them. And asked them the same series of questions. And the questions were simple. What is it that we are so proud of in Safaricom that we should not lose? The second question was, what is it that you hope that the new CEO will change in the company? The third question was, what are you concerned that the CEO might change in the company, or that might do in the company? And then the fourth question was, what is your advice to me as a new CEO to be successful? So I asked that across my direct reports, and then I went down several layers in the organization and asked them the same question. And then I asked the question outside, so with our business partners, with our customers, with our vendors, just to see where the alignment was. The alignment across my team, the alignment further down the organization, and how we see ourselves relative to how people saw us. So it was interesting. There were some themes which came out. The bits which were more worrying for me is that we at Safaricom were seen as being a particularly arrogant company. You didn't have to nod quite so quickly. Let me get to my full stop first. We were pretty arrogant. We were unapproachable, and it's inevitable as the company has grown and the kind of growth rate that we've seen. And the impact that we have on society in general, it's not surprising that we start to kind of get a little bit of a big head. But I was surprised, actually, at how within the company, people were saying that if there's anything you do, Bob, could you get rid of the arrogance of the company? So within the company, people were saying that. And, I can look at Ken, and Ken was one of the people who said that. We are not approachable. We bully our way around. And it's good, you can get away with that for so long. I come from a slightly different perspective, and it's a slightly more modest perspective on life. And that is that I don't believe that in the 21st century world, people can afford to, number one, do things themselves, and which is why this community is such a fantastic community. The second thing is, I've forgotten what the second thing is now. I don't believe that that arrogance actually gets you very far. It buys you a little bit of time, but ultimately, you're going to nod like the way you just nodded, and we deserve it, frankly. We carry this, and this is where I kind of get into a little bit of trouble with my team, the teams who've been around for a while. We carry this thing to say that we are innovative. So in amongst the things that people said we are proud of at Safaricom, and don't lose it, it was innovation. We are very innovative. And, I humor them for a while, and for the Safaricomers who are watching the live stream, forgive me. I humor them for a while, but I say to guys like Ken, and I have to tell you that Ken is one of my most trusted team members, and a man for whom I have a great deal of personal affection. And I say to them, okay, let's put M-Pesa to one side, because we kind of flogged that thing to death. What else were we innovative about? And I can ask you, what else was Safaricom innovative about? Thibault and I were having this conversation yesterday, and I couldn't think of a lot, frankly. We've done some stuff, so like a Core Jahazi, Sambaza, but actually those things, we didn't innovate them, we just brought them in. The innovative thing was how we brought it to market, and that kind of worked. We introduced low-value scratch cards. That's not really innovation, lots of other people have done that. And so there's a perception that we are what we're not. And so I believe that as we go forward, we have to become innovative, but I don't believe that we can become innovative on our own. And some of the themes that we're going to talk about, either in the interaction or as I ramble on for the next 700 more minutes I have before Eric's half an hour runs out, I believe that we have not really engaged you as a community as well as we should do. I believe that for a number of reasons, for kind of cultural reasons, the fact that you probably don't understand us as much, the fact that we think we know the answers because we're big and we're East Africa's biggest, or whatever we call ourselves. Actually, we're no longer East Africa's. Shenyedetu and EABL is East Africa's biggest. So I've stopped drinking beer. Other reasons as well. I think that some of the stuff that we have done in the past have been wrong. And when I first started to talk to Nzioka about this, and Nzioka spent a lot of time here, and some of you may know him. And Nzioka said to me, you have to come to iHub. You have to see some of the stuff that these guys are doing, and you have to try to figure out with them how you engage them, how you leverage them. Because I do not intend to develop and to introduce an innovation department, an R&D department. And actually, we're trying to count how many people work in this so-called innovation space in the company. And we think we probably have about 40 people. And many of you may know them, many of you may hate them. Because, could you stop smiling quite so quickly? Because, you bring stuff to us and allegedly we steal it. Or allegedly we sit in it forever. Or allegedly we treat you with such utter disdain and disregard that you think, guys, really, if you didn't have 18 million customers, I wouldn't even be sitting here. And so some of you take your pride and you say, I'm walking out of here, And we have to change that. And the reason why I'm here while Thibault is here and while Ken is here, when they're here also to answer the hard questions that you guys are going to ask, but it's also because we actually want to positively engage with you guys. Now, there's some things that you're going to ask for that we can't do. There's some things that I'm going to ask from you that you're not going to be prepared to do, in which case, we just need to kind of go our own ways. But I believe that between a company that really has made an impact, despite what I just said about innovation, the impact that we've made, and let's bring M-Pesa back onto the table here, the impact that we've made on Kenyan society has been large, and the impact that we can make going forward is enormous. And whenever I talk about my timing in this job, people say to me, wow, you've come in at just the wrong time, huh? And we as a management team don't actually believe that. We think that this is the most exciting time. One, because we have to fight a fantastic commercial battle, and some we win, some we lose. But it's interesting. It sharpens us up, and it makes us a lot slimmer. And I can tell you that the company that I came into just over a year ago, where we were charging 8 shillings a minute, is actually a very different company to the one we have now, because now we're down to kind of like 2, 3, 4, 5 shillings, depending on which tariff you're in. And we have to get ourselves fit enough to be able to operate in a 1 shilling market, because it's not going to be long before we head back into that field. But it's also a market and a company which continues to invest. So last year we invested about 25 billion shillings. This year we're going to be order of magnitude about the same kind of, maybe a little bit less, but it's still going to be a significant investment. It's a company that attempted to do everything badly. And so when we sat through what we called the GATE meeting, which is our innovation review meeting, we just had tons and tons of stuff, Ken. And how many of them have come to market? Very few, if indeed any. Because we don't know how to, is that me? It's not me. We don't actually know how to bring these things to fruition. And somebody said at the management meeting on Monday, do we want to be more like Google that does lots and lots of stuff, or like Apple that only does 2 things? And I think Thibault was the one who said, well, actually, both Google and Apple do lots and lots of stuff. It's just that they have a different approach to how they finally bring it to the market. So we believe, when I say we, I mean me and my management team, certainly I have a very firm belief that engaging with you as a community positively, where there's added value for all three of us. So that's for you, that's for us, and that's for the customers, because just developing stuff at SafeBit, I'm sure many of you do develop stuff which never actually sees the light of day, but that's the way it is. Unless we can really add value in how we do it, then we are just going to end up being like any other mobile network here in Kenya or most of Africa, which is selling minutes and attempting to sell data. Actually, selling data really rather poorly, in my view. I don't think that we are where we. I keep moving backwards and forwards, so you have to keep pulling focus. Does that work for you? Good. With it, if I stop distracting myself, I'll keep my train of thought going. So that we can add value, and so that it will make sense for you, and so we can continue to keep Kenya sitting at what I would consider to be the forefront. And the phrase Silicon Savannah is one which other people have I think it was you, right? Was it you?
Some magazine guy.
Yeah. It's a phrase which I think is well deserved, and it's only through that partnership that we can keep moving forward. So let us talk about some of the successes and failures. This is again, we didn't talk about this, but somebody prompted me last night on Twitter and said, okay, so the Safaricom Innovation Board, what's it done, what's it achieved? And I knew I was going to come and see you today, and so I said, I'll be interested in the answer to that question as well. And then he wrote back and says, you mean you don't know? And the answer is no, I don't know. Because I don't think it has achieved as much as it could have achieved, for lots of reasons. From our side, we believe that it needed to be driven a little bit more, and we think that if Safaricom had a greater role, it would have been driven more. Of course, from the other side, it's that you didn't really trust Safaricom, and therefore it ended up being an arm's length thing, and so it ended up actually being a little bit of an orphan. So it has achieved some things, but it hasn't achieved it at the pace that it should have achieved it. Some of the successes, we have the Safaricom Academy, which I think is a success. We put about 30 young people a year through this academy in collaboration with Stratmore. I think we spend about 17 million shillings. And I think we hired 2 of the people who came out, but actually most of the people who come out, they don't actually want to be hired. They want to become entrepreneurs, they want to go do their own thing, and I think that's good. And what that does, it starts to create a larger ecosystem for us. And I subscribe very much to Google's formula that says the formula for reward is that the formula for success is that reward is equal to the size of the pie times your market share. So if you can make the pie bigger and you have a market share of whatever the market share is, you're just going to get more of the stuff. And so don't just do it for our own benefit. And as we've been talking over the past couple of days about, in preparation for this chat, because it has been, I have been apprehensive about it, because people said, oh, when you go see those guys, they're going to give you hell. And we started to think, about this whole innovation thing and how we can help. And how we can maybe create an open space. And I'd be interested in your view. And so this is not just about you asking questions, trust me. How we can create this kind of open space where innovations, where thoughts, where ideas can be lodged, where they can be picked, but where they can be monetized. Because this is a luxury. This feels very much like when I was in Zurich at the Google place there. So, but you're not always going to get the kind of sponsorship. People will walk away from it. You're going to end up not being able to pay for some of this stuff. So we have to be able to monetize it. And it is our desire as a management team that we find ways of engaging with you much more positively, that we become a partner of choice. But when you develop things, you maybe just not develop it just for Safaricom, maybe you just develop it for the system, for the ecosystem, and we will have a larger share of the business, I hope. And we'll have, therefore, a larger share of the success. So with that, Eric, I probably didn't give you the 30 minutes that you expected, and I probably didn't talk so much about what brought me to where I am, and they're probably looking at me and thinking, yeah, you didn't even go to university. Why is
No. This is good. university is for people who want to work for other people.
Do you know how many people I work for? I work for 750,000 shareholders.
Yes, that's true. That's true. No, that was great. Thanks, everybody. Let's give Bob a round of applause. Thank you very much. So now we're going to go into the side where we start asking questions, and this is a chance to just ask some good questions. And some of Bob's lieutenants are here who can help back him up if there's any really tough ones that he doesn't know, which is fine. So here's one on M-Pesa, because I thought this was an interesting one. M-Pesa is a great success story, and it's much lauded, maybe too oft lauded, but it's a good one, right? And that is from somebody online, Raymond within it, says, is M-Pesa currently hosted locally? If not, are there any plans to change that since you have your own cloud hosting?
No, it is not hosted locally. It's hosted in Germany, and it's redundant in the UK. So you'll say it's going to be redundant. Why the hell is it redundant in the UK? Question which we have asked ourselves many times. So why is it hosted in Germany? Because when it was first envisaged, it was seen to be a platform which Vodafone would have, and then lots of the operating companies around the world would use it. As it turned out, it's really only been a success here, more limited success in Tanzania, and it has been a bigger success here than we ever thought. So the scale of the thing now at around 15 million users, the platform frankly struggles to cope with it. And so, I mean, the other question, which you probably got on that list, is, when are you going to release the API for M-Pesa?
Well, actually, I got a question around that. Is that, do you have the ability to release the API, or is that Vodafone?
We can give you a more complex answer, and we'll get Ken to do that. But frankly, the way the platform is designed, it is not easy to release the API. Now, what we were hoping to do is we were hoping to have the 9.2 version of the platform. But really, when we looked at it, and we looked at the challenges we had towards the end of last year, we said, you know what, actually, we need to get a completely new platform, rather than trying to pull this thing together. Last year, we upgraded it to handle, it used to handle 70, max out at 70 transactions per second. So we went through a lot of pain to increase it threefold to 200 transactions per second. But on Christmas Eve day, it peaked at 250, which wasn't even designed to do. And so we said, you know what, we just need a new platform, and we need a new platform which is here in Kenya. Because what happens is when it goes down, these two guys get called, and then they have to phone somebody in Germany, and then we got people in Italy, and so we wanted to host it here, because it also gets rid of that point of failure. It's connected by a piece of wire at the other end. And when that goes down, then we're in trouble. It goes up to the satellite, but if that goes down, then we're in deep trouble. So the platform will come here. It's not something which is going to be done overnight. It's going to take, we think, probably closer to 18 months to get it there. And once it comes here, then of course, all that functionality will be available. But we just think that it's better to do it properly rather than try to patch it and get a 9.2 version and then push back the Kenyan platform even further. Now the good news is that Michael Joseph is now in charge of M-Pesa in Vodafone. He understands perfectly why this platform has to come here. He's one of the biggest supporters of this. And he's working flat out with the team to bring it here. If you need any more details, we're going to try and do a bit of a workaround so that some of the things that you want to do, and Salim can never get through a week without giving me crap about why is the API not available. It's not because we don't want it to be available, it's just because technically it's not possible.
So I actually do sit on the Safaricom Innovation Board, and I know a little bit about it in the internal meetings. I've been to every single one, haven't missed a single meeting, okay? And one of the big questions that we had was not just about the M-Pesa API, but access to infrastructure. With Airtel offering their one API pretty soon in 17 countries, it's going to be pretty important for Safaricom to have something equally available. Do you have anything else? So put the M-Pesa question aside, but on the rest of your infrastructure, is there going to be anything available for developers that they can access fairly easily without going through too many gatekeepers?
Yes. We have a service delivery platform which Ken is going to be ready in.
It was supposed to, SDP was supposed to launch in November 2011, right?
Yes, we are
Okay.
actually doing internal trials right now.
So we're doing, we should give you the microphone. We're doing internal trials right now, repeating what you're saying.
Yes, we are actually doing internal trials right now with the SDP. Basically what it is, it's a platform that exposes all the capabilities of the network at an API level, and we allow you to build your applications on top of that. Over and above that, we will also be providing an app store where you can build applications and put them within the app store and then monetize them from there. Now, initially, we'll have interfaces to the SMSC, USSD gateway. We will have location services. I know a lot of that has been asked. We'll have real-time charging into the account, which is different from the mobile terminating SMS or mobile originating SMS you have to use currently. So it'll be we'll have quite a few things, and we'll grow it from there. We do intend to expose much more, even going into the information layer, so that, okay, I don't want to let it out now because that's about 6 months, but yes, we will go into the information layer, not just into the infrastructure layer. Yeah.
Ken, why don't you come up here so we can.
Well, thank you so much for such a beautiful talk. I'm really glad you noted about the arrogance of Safaricom and the challenges with the different market aspects. Question to you is, how do you intend to address this? Because though we make fun about it, in the long term it has implications on your market share, and also there's a limit to which clients can endure how much they are taking around different departments. So if you can share on that, and then secondly, what's the future of 4G in Africa?
The first part of how we address this is today. Because honestly, I didn't come to talk to you. I came really to engage with you and to introduce Thibault to you, but also to introduce you to Thibault. Because we need you to tell us your view on how we deal with this. We don't understand. We don't actually, honestly, we don't have the answer. We don't have the answer on how to deal effectively with innovation. And Njoka said to me, he says, you have to go talk to the guys at iHub. I don't know who the guys at iHub, but it's not, it's partly to do with you, but it's much more to do with you guys because you're part of that ecosystem. So today is the first of that. And I think we just need to find ways that you can come and talk to us. And I don't mean talk to the people who've been giving you the runaround. I mean come and talk to the guys who are sitting on the bridge, which is me, it's Thibault, it's Njoka, it's Kenneth. And share with us your view on how you think you can best interact with us. You're not just going to be the only way for us to do this. Of course, you're going to have other people, and you're going to have vendors, so you're going to have people like Huawei and Ericsson and those guys who will also come up with stuff. But we need to create an ecosystem where that works. And honestly, for the people who know me, and I pick on Id, who is sitting there, tweeting away, and he will tell you that I really do have an open door policy. When he was fed up with my team, he came and he saw me. He says, I want to see you. Came in, spoke to me, we addressed the issue that he has. So, and I didn't know him from Adam. There's no reason why I should. So I think you approached me on Twitter, I think. So, we do have an open door policy at the top of the organization, but I fully accept that further down the organization, it's tough. But you can only lead by example. So, and the next question is on 3G. 4G, sorry. I keep forgetting I'm not the one that's not launched 3G yet. But nearly fine. We've been doing some testing now for some time. We've got the discussion going down with Dr. Ndemo and the team at the Ministry of Information and Communication around spectrum allocation. But quite frankly, at the moment, we still think we've got quite a bit to be gained from 3G. And in around this area here, I think we've upgraded to about 21, right? So in what we call the data belt, we're 21, and we're going to be moving up to 42. But it's still a hugely underutilized network. So about 1,600 thereabouts base stations, 3G base stations. But we've only got 1 million handsets in the marketplace at the moment. And so we do need to get much more optimization of that 3G network before we drift on to 4G. Government's desire to push 4G is to do with the establishment of the counties. And they believe that 4G, LTE, would be the quickest way, the most effective way of equipping those counties. But we need to see how that debate goes. What we would say is that our network is actually LTE ready, so it's just a plug-in. We don't have to build stuff. But it's not, it's not this year. It's not next year.
Yeah, I actually wanted to offer, first I'm Ben, I work for a company called Coco. I wanted to offer just a recommendation. Google and InMobi have developer relations managers that sit in the iHub several days a week, and they've really helped us navigate the divisions of each company. So if we have an issue, we go to them, they just push through. And it's not a full-time thing, it's just a couple days a week. You sit here, you make sure you know who are the developers, what are they doing, keep them up to date on what's happening at Google and InMobi. And I know if Safaricom could do something similar, it would be really valuable.
That's a good, the leadership team is supposed to have a slightly higher elevation, therefore can see the whole picture. And so something which may not look terribly interesting to someone who works in the product services department somewhere, if you show it to Tipo, we show it to Nzioka, he can kind of piece it together much better. So I actually want the leadership team to be spending more time here as well. And why not? Eric was very kind to say you must, and Jessica very kind to say we must come down and just shoot the breeze sometimes. And why not come have a cup of coffee, good coffee?
Currently, you integrate with some bank, for example, and if you're talking about 6 months ago, then how are you integrating with them? And if somebody would like to integrate an application with you, then what would be the steps? Should you have to wait for 6 months, or do the same we do with the current other integrators like current some banks like INM and so on?
Okay, actually, the plan is, because currently, if you look at how the banks and all the other third parties connect to the systems, they do connect directly. So if it's on SMSC, on the SMSC they would connect to SMPP, on the USSD we give them a protocol to use and all that. And it's quite difficult because it also takes time to do the development. So what we are saying is that, yes, we will provide an easier way to access these services, and even the people who have existing services with us will be migrated. And we already have a plan that we've started talking to some of the network, the system integrators, premium service providers, and they are going to start converting these services into the new interfaces through the SDP. Yeah. And it's not 6 months, I think I said about 1.5 months. Yeah.
We have another question over there. Android has been a really big thing, both in the iHub. Well, raise your hands here if you're an Android dev. If you've done some Android development, raise your hand. Okay, so a good third of you maybe. How many here have an Android phone? Good God. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, what is the impact of Android on Safaricom? How does iDeos play it out for you? And what do you think the impact is going to be in the future?
Okay, Android phones, I think, let me start with the iDeos because I think iDeos was the first phone that we sold into the market. Yes, we do have, I think, slightly over 100,000 iDeos out there in the market. And yes, they are being used. I want to comment on how many applications have been downloaded from the App Store, because I'm not aware of that. But we do see it in other areas in the network. For example, we've seen increase in our data traffic. We've seen other areas that we need to address, like the signaling, right? The fact that the phone is always on also gives us issues in capacities in certain areas in the network. So going forward, right, and Tipo is here, going forward, I think we will be much more careful how we plan the network because we know that we're not going to turn around Android being there. Android phones will be there, phones that are always on, and these phones will obviously demand services that are real time all the time. So that's how we see it happening in the network.
We really love Android. I mean, in fact, I use an Android and given up my iPhone. Why? Because it's local. And the applications on iPhone are largely irrelevant to us as a market here. And the reason why I'm excited about being here and about finding solutions for working with you guys is because I think that the market, the Kenyan market, the Kenyans love Kenyan stuff. Whether it's Kenyan music, I went to one of our staff parties where there wasn't a single non-Kenyan song played, including the 40/40 dance. And this is why Android for me, and when we first launched the ideas, about a year ago, just under a year ago, we took a bit of a shot at it, and it's about 170,000, I think. I checked the numbers before I came tonight. About 170,000 has been put out to the market. And when we look at the average revenue per user on an Android phone compared to everything else, and we don't compare it to the iPhone because the ones which are connected, we didn't sell. It's like order of magnitude is massive. And so absolutely we want to support it, and we are going to be heading out towards to China again just to see if we can replicate the ideas, because it's been out for a little while. But we need to replicate, we need to keep driving the cost of smartphones. And our focus now is much more around smartphones, and you're not going to see us subsidizing or indeed pushing too hard some of the simple voice and text phones, because again, if you look at the average revenue per user, it's next to nothing. And I was furious with my team, and I caught them subsidizing the VF150. Do you even know what a VF150 is? It's a black and white phone. So our focus now, from now onwards, is going to be very much around smartphones, because the more we can get into, and smartphones, not just, because we used to sit back on our laurels and say, hey, we've got 4.5 million data-enabled phone, we used to say, data-enabled phone. Well, what are you going to do with a data-enabled phone? Because we counted GPRS. And so when we stopped and took stock a few months ago, actually for the half-year results, and we said, well, we've only got just under a million 3G phones, and not all those 3G phones were smartphones either. So for us, pushing smartphones and pushing, we can be agnostic, but we're going to be pushing Android because it gives you guys something that we can work on to make it relevant for this market.
My name is Chris. I'm an iHub Green member, a manager at M-Pesa, which is a tool that enables to find nearest M-Pesa agents. And my question is, Safaricom today is leveraging on data to increase the revenue and to enhance your position at the worldwide market. But what are you doing to improve the internet experience to the average 190?
We launched this thing called the Webbox. I don't know if you saw the Webbox, which is just a keyboard that you plug into a TV. And sold out in a couple of weeks. And then the team, who really don't believe in this Webbox, I said, you need to go order some more. So they ordered some more, and it sold out in another 2 weeks. So these are the kind of things where we're not improving the internet experience, but we're bringing the internet into people's hands for the first time. Because there's large swathes of the community that don't really need 3G just yet. Where I was yesterday, it was slightly embarrassing. Because the Vice President took me up there to show us that there was no coverage. And we got to a point in the road and he says, right, your coverage is going to go now, and it's gone. And then when we sat in front of all these people, he said, how many people have got a mobile phone? And I think about 50% of the adult population put their hands up. And he says, look, these people, they have a phone and they don't have any coverage. And then he shouted at some guys who were climbing up, who were up the tree. And the guy said the only place they can get internet, they can get mobile coverage is on the tree. And so we sent Tiwa up the tree to see if we can get it. And so we still have some way to go to get people the very basics. And the very basics is Edge and is GPRS, because they're not going to generate as much revenue. But we're doing some other stuff with the internet. So we're going to do some stuff around M-Health, M-Agriculture. M-Health is something which I'm particularly keen on, because I think it can make such a big difference. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to start to work with digital villages. And at the moment, digital villages, there's not that many around, and they're not really that well equipped. But our vision is we want to equip those digital villages to be delivering much more in terms of value for those customers, rather than just them downloading YouTube and stuff, because those customers will never download YouTube. For them, what really matters is if I'm sick, I can get an answer, I can get some help. And the same with education and stuff. So I mean, that's the kind of the high-level answer, but Ken will probably give you a more technical answer.
If you want a technical answer. Okay. I think towards the end of last year, we sat down with the teams across the business and we analyzed, trying to find out how does somebody get their first internet experience. And it's very interesting when you listen to some of the calls in the call center about somebody wanting to have their first internet experience, because they come in and they say, I want the internet. They don't say to Google, I want this. So you almost have to customize, not for the people sitting in this room, but for the people who are out there, maybe 100 kilometers away, who struggle to even get news. For them, their first experience is really an experience that they've seen somebody else enjoying, or myths that they've had about internet or things that are true. So to customize this experience, we start by looking at, first and foremost, when you get your phone, what is it that we can do for you in terms of configuration and setup? So we go out and we sit down and we look at the systems. We do have many phones that we can update over the air and send them the settings, but we also have challenges with some of the phones that are not, we'd call them counterfeit, but they're not actually counterfeit, they're just non-standard phones that we can't update. So we also, with the customer care team, go out and look for these phones, find out how these phones are working, and share, put those settings online to assist you to be able to set up. After you've set up, the first thing that usually happens is, how much am I being charged? Right now, with this, I think we've shared a lot of bundles out there. Right? Some of them are very popular. Right? Some of them are daily for the phones. You have a daily, I think, 8 shillings, 8 shillings per day kind of product. Then, when you go in, what is the internet experience? This is where we're looking at the SDPs, we're looking at the portals, we're looking at being able to adapt the initial pages, our landing page, the Safaricom.com. We look at adapting that to your phone and giving you quick links to be able to start experiencing the thing that you say is the internet. So that's some of the things that we're doing. I hope it answers your question. Yeah.
How many of you went to our new store in the Junction? Anybody? Your feedback? What do you think?
They were very helpful.
They were?
Yeah, I got my phone there.
Okay. So what we've been trying to do with this store is we're trying really to make this thing a bit more accessible. I get depressed when I go to the Safaricom store. I have to go to them from time to time. Because there's a queue and there's all that nonsense. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to bring something which was a little bit akin to the Apple experience. The Apple experience, apart from being very clean, very open, is that everything worked. And I wanted people to just be able to go and look at their emails. If they just want to look at the emails, it's fine. Just let them look at the email. But I never want to come into the store and push a button and see it's not working. And this is all about introducing people to the internet for the first time, because it's not everybody like you guys, and including me. I'm actually a fairly simple person. I need some help in understanding some of this stuff.
Hi, my name is James Kabiru. I'm an entrepreneur. Thank you for your honesty regarding the process of picking up innovation from brains such as these and adapting them into Safaricom. One key concern that I've heard from a lot of people is protection of intellectual property. And there are a lot of rumors that are bandied about that take your application or take your idea to Safaricom, you'll be taken through the departments, that'll be the end of it, and 3 months later, somebody else has the same product. So we need to be given an understanding and a clarity on exactly how the processes are going to run. So that my suggestion would be, at least thanks we've met some of your teams, but if we had, or if it was communicated that this is the process, take your application, hand it over to this office, and A, B, and C is going to happen, and your intellectual property is safe. I've had the mention of the App Store, which I think is a very good idea. and it's been long. It's taken a bit too long to come, because Android is wonderful and it's brilliant a platform as it is, does not necessarily do justice for all the wonderful ideas that come out of it, because the apps in there are dime a dozen. So by the time they're found, they tend to disappear within the network or within the background. So if we could have a local app store where all these local applications that are built are going to be uploaded, as they are used, the heavy stones, the big stones will flow to the top. What's more used and what's more relevant will come up. And then it makes it easier to monetize. And then you come up with a policy where, for the apps that are made extremely popular, for those that are popular, pick a random sample, find ways of getting into joint development partnerships with those developers. The iHub is here, there's Eric and his team. So it then makes it easy for them to communicate. And you have that communication. And the developer is then able to confidently monetize his product together with Safaricom. And agreements on how to share revenue and that kind of thing make it, it just makes it a lot more. My challenge also would be, as you're developing the app store, include the iHub as they do this. There's a whole host of talent in here. So as you build the app store, make it even, put it into a browser. I'd even challenge you, make a Safaricom browser that is local. You can host the app store there, so that it's not just accessible on the phone, you can also get it off the internet. The iHub can very easily build a browser such as that. All these apps will be loaded up there, they'll sit there, and they'll be then easy to find and to search. That's my 2 cents.
Maybe I can just add a bit of clarification too from the iHub side, something that I know from working with the Safaricom team. And that is, one of the challenges is that, I think, I'm sorry, what was your name? James was saying, is that it's access to infrastructure, right? Like, I can actually make an Android app very easily, and I can deploy it, and if I get some promotion out there, it'll take off, maybe if it's done well. Okay, great. But how about SMS, how about USSD, how about voice apps, things like that? Those are the kind of things that if you don't have a sandbox to play in, and that's what we really need, I think, is a sandbox. Something that it's a safe place for you to put us, where guys can go and experiment, and the good things rise to the top, and from there, they can then be promoted by Safaricom or by others, right? And I think that's one of the things that's really missing in our ecosystem, is a way for people to dabble and to get their hands dirty. Right now, you're doing it on your own box, and you're hoping that it works when you deploy it with Safaricom, and once you get to the point where you're talking to Ken, you realize, oh shoot, I forgot to put that hook in there. And that hook now is a big problem, because now it doesn't do X. If it doesn't do X, it's a dead app, right? And so then when Safaricom sees it, they say, oh, this is crap, why would we ever partner with you? And it's a bad cycle to be in. So is there a way that we can get a sandbox to play in?
I was here last year and I had a chance to interact with the team at iHub. And one of the things we realized is that there's money sitting in this room. And we want that money and you want that money. The challenge for us, the traditional approach is that we must own everything. And that's in this market right now, it's an urban legend. Intellectual property is king. People should be recognized and rewarded for the work they put into their ideas. Now, this is where a meeting of convenience now takes place, because the thinking behind the SDP platform was fairly simple. In addition to giving you access to the network elements and allowing you to really develop your applications around the mobile environment, the second thing was to allow us to sort out the issue of intellectual property and revenue share. We give you the space to play. You come in, you have an environment that allows you to test. We give you the test laboratory space. We allow you to play with sample numbers that exist on the network. We then allow you to monetize it. Now, the key thing to protect intellectual property revolves around revenue share. And that's where this cookie really crumbles properly, because it allows us to now discuss money. We say it's volume driven. You have 1 million downloads. This is the revenue share. You have 10 downloads. This is revenue share. We then go deeper. free download, let's look at in-app advertising, and let's look at the money that's generated over there. The whole point for us is that we don't have enough developers, we don't have enough thinkers. Even with enough money, we couldn't hire everybody in this room to think for us. And if we hired them, your minds would immediately be shackled, and your creativity would suffer accordingly. And that's why it's very necessary for you to continue existing in that space. For us, as Bob mentioned earlier in his discussion, it's a question of mutual convenience. We come here with vested interest, and we don't hide that we have a vested interest. If local TV is anything to go by, and I always use this as the benchmark to my colleagues, if Royal Media could turn around local TV and make it more vogue than watching everything else, then why can't we do the same thing for the local app space? Why can't we take local apps and really make them the in thing to have? Now the key thing, what you'd want to know is, are you more interested in protecting your idea, or are you more interested in making your idea make money? We want to see millionaires coming out of this space. And until we do that, until we see that, we won't stop. And that's really very simple.
My name's Dave Talbot, and by coincidence, I'm here from Technology Review magazine in the United States, writing about M-Health in Kenya from various perspectives. So I wanted to ask you if you could articulate, you mentioned M-Health before, in more detail what your strategy is. And following up on Eric's comment about the good idea of having a sandbox, would Safaricom consider having a sort of a health sandbox? Because you have kids at Strathmore University writing code right now to help optimize delivery of health information up and down the system. As you know, you have NGOs putting hundreds of millions of dollars and foreign aid, hundreds of millions of dollars coming in, and they're all wanting to solve the deep problems in Kenya and help people. So I'm just wondering what your strategy is, and whether there's a way to bring some of these parties in and leverage your expertise to move things along.
Sure. On M-Health, we're doing a few things. I mean, at the very basic level, we've just launched this Dactari 1525, which is just a phone and doc, a call and doc service. Became some criticism from the medical profession, with vested interest, who said that it is well known that the best way to deal with a patient is to see him face to face. But this is somebody who forgets the fact that we only have 450 hospitals in the country, etc., etc. So it ranges from call and doc to things like M-Pedigree, to an initiative that we are running called Kinship. And Kinship is a partnership, and you mentioned some of these NGOs and donors. A partnership with, amongst others, AMREV and World Vision and some others, where we will be equipping something like 20,000 community health workers with a fairly simple handset, which you download a simple application, and it gives the community health service worker the opportunity to register their patient and to track the patient. The Millennium Goals 4 and 5, which relates to infant and maternal fatalities, if we continue the way we are, we will never hit those goals by 2015. And we believe that we can improve maternal and infant health. Simply, death in childbirth is increased when we don't have an assisted birth. And of course, if you go into rural Kenya, many parts of rural Kenya, you're not going to have an assisted birth. And so this allows the community health worker to track the pregnant mother, to ensure that she does her 5 pre- and postnatal visits. We will then use M-Pesa to create a micro-insurance, so that the mother doesn't have to pay for the insurance, but the donor community are prepared to do that. So the donor community submits to the insurance company. The payment is done, the dispersal is done via M-Pesa. Similarly, when the health fund, I don't know what it's called in Ethiopia, when the health fund wants to disperse money to a local health clinic to buy drugs, the health clinic invariably, if you're in North Turkana, you might have to shut the health clinic, travel for 2 days to the bank to get the cash. So the money will be dispersed via M-Pesa. We're working with US aid to find some solutions in Dadaab, where the statistics are well known. But when the donor companies want to get cash into beneficiaries, want to get food vouchers into beneficiaries, it evaporates before it gets there. So we use things like M-Pesa to do that. So there's a whole host of things, and we are very much part of that whole UN. In fact, they're dragging out from time to time, and we were privileged to have been invited to address the UN on what we're doing in partnerships, because we're actually a very good example, notwithstanding all the stuff that we talked about, our arrogance, but this is a reflection of how we are changing. A very good example of how we're working in partnership to get a commercial solution, a commercially viable solution. So this has nothing to do with our CSR work. This is something which actually makes us money, and they use very simple applications like SMS to deliver it.
Just a quick follow-up. Where does that stand? Where do some of these things stand?
Okay, so
Time-wise.
this year, we've already launched the Dactari 1525, and we're currently hitting at about 300, 400, 500 calls a day. The Kim chip, we are rolling out the pilot, but we've actually, the business model works for us. So as soon as the government is ready, we're ready to go. And in Kenya, we have a particular challenge because we've got 2 different health ministries to work with, et cetera, et cetera. But you find that the UN agencies are using Safaricom much more as an example of how you can work in partnership across NGOs, across other, because we stop. I'm not as a CEO, I don't have a greedy mentality. Now, we're going to talk about what the business model will look like, and most of you guys will say Safaricom is greedy, and perhaps we are, and perhaps we may have stolen stuff. I don't really say that, but I can understand where that mistrust comes, and the way that our guys have responded to this is as soon as someone says, I've got an idea, people write to me a lot, the first thing my guys do is they slap an NDA, and it's a 15-page NDA, and it takes 45 days to get it signed, and you guys, you don't have the time for that nonsense. And the man who writes the NDA actually sits in the Executive Department. When I realized this, because I encourage people to write to me, and again, I come back to Id, so he writes to me, he says, I've got an idea, I want to do this. And you just want to do it. And we have 3 simple words. One is speed, simplicity, and trust. And what you're saying is you don't trust us. And probably for very good reasons. We're a big ugly gorilla. We do not act with speed. I mean, you would not believe the rage that I get into when I discover that it takes 45 days to get an NDA prepared. Why isn't it just kind of photocopied and given to you? Simplicity, we're not a simple organization, but we're getting there. We're not going to get there this year. It'll take a while, which is why we have guys like Thibault and some of the other. So this is why I have the management team that I have now. This is my management team. I can make no excuses for any of them, and that is because we believe that we have to act with speed, with simplicity, and with trust. Because if you wait, the opportunity goes.
From a marketing perspective, you guys have an awesome infrastructure. And what will it take for us, or for me, to be able to have my app on a billboard on Wayaki Way saying, want to access, okay, let me use Bernard's Nico Hapa, or my pet project, Ufarisi, want to access it, use it through Safaricom. How can we piggyback off that awesome infrastructure you have? Or how can we partner with you to help market our products? Because it doesn't matter if we have the greatest app in the world if no one knows it exists.
Where we don't actually, we never, as Joka says, we're never going to hire you guys. You don't want to be hired by someone like us. But we want to be able to have access to the stuff that you've got. And also, we don't necessarily want to have it exclusively. Those days are gone. Now, we might want to have a little bit of an advantage. We might want to have a little bit of a first mover advantage. But we want to be much more open. And how do you get onto the billboard? Well, I think you have to make a successful app, right? And many of you will be preparing apps without really understanding the market very well. And these guys will tell you that I want to know before we make a decision on something. I want to know what is the customer insight that's leading to that. And you maybe you're not into customer. I mean, you're different because you're marketing, but you're maybe not into customer insight. You just want to do stuff. But I expect my team, what we are going to bring to this, is a deep, deep understanding of the customer. I don't think we always have it, but I think we do certainly have it much more than our competitors. So we had a debate at the management meeting on Monday morning when one of our competitors launched something, and we said we should launch that as well. And in amongst the management team, there's a debate. And I said, well, why? So, well, because they've done it, we don't have it, we're missing. And I said, well, what tells you the customer wants it? And so, what we will bring to this is the customer insight, and this is where we're going to invest. What you have to bring is the technology, and then we have to make it work for you and work for us. Let me just talk about the business model, because it's probably something which is not said, but I know people are concerned because they say Safaricom is greedy. If you take a very high-level view of it, and you look at, if you invested 100 shillings in my company as a shareholder, what I will deliver to you, if you take my last results, it's probably about 7%. That's not a huge return. And therefore, when you look at the 6-40 or the 7-30 or whatever the mix is, depending on what it is, and it looks greedy, actually, it isn't, because the return that we're giving to our investors is certainly a lot less than they can get if they put it in the bank today. So maybe it can be tweaked, and if you take something like Skiza, that's a very simple thing. Skiza, I was shocked. As you know, I'm also in the music industry. I was shocked when I spoke to some of the musicians out there who says, do you know how little money I get from Skiza? It's measured in cents. So you download a Skiza and you get 30 cents, and you think, really? And the reason for that is because we don't actually own the platform. The platform is owned by Huawei. We have to do a revenue split with Huawei, and so now we're actually looking, if Thibault wins his argument, we're looking at how we can buy that platform so we can make that mix. But we need to get out of our shoes, and actually we do have this. You'll remember that when I first started, there was this really rather irritating question about, do you think you can fit into Michael Joseph's shoes? And it's funny for the first year, but actually we worked on this shoe, we leveraged the shoe thing, and says, we have to walk in other people's shoes. And so I made the entire company, not just the senior team. We started out with a senior team, you have to still do it. We started out with a senior team, and we said, you have to go work in the shop for 2 days. Wear the uniform, answer the customer queries, etc. And then we cascaded it down because it was such fun. It wasn't fun actually, but there were so many learnings that were coming out that when I made the heads of divisions do it, they said, well, we can make our senior managers do it. And so the whole company went through it in the end. And then we did the same thing with customer care. And so what we have to do is we have to take our shoes off and put your shoes on to understand, and we don't have any, Nzioka has a better understanding than the rest of us, but we don't understand what it feels like to be a developer and to be coming here and slugging it out every day, and to be to come and sit in a corridor at Safaricom for however long. And sometimes it's hours, right? They sit for hours and then you treat it like you're a piece of dirt. So we have to, and this is the first part of it. Standing up here is not exactly standing in the shoes, but I will want to make sure, and I know Thibault, because we already talked about this, we will want to make sure that we are walking much more in your shoes to understand your perspective so we can get that business model right for you.
Would like to challenge Safaricom to look at how to bring the costs, like for M-Pesa, even lower if possible, because especially for the smaller transactions, because when you sell music, you sell it for 100 shillings, and already 15 shillings goes to Safaricom. When it is 100,000, it's okay, but as a percentage for smaller transactions, it's not okay.
Yeah, sure. On the M-Pesa transaction fees, you're right, and one of the things that the governor of the central bank keeps pushing us on is how do you reduce the minimum transaction. And we actually tested it out when we did Kenyans to Kenya. So the minimum transaction was 10 shillings, right? 10 shillings. So we now know we can do 10 shillings. The question is, if you're going to transfer 10 shillings, what is the charge going to be? And the percentage terms, even if you do a 3 shilling charge, because we still have to pay the agent, 3 shillings is 30% of 10 shillings. And so we are working on trying to figure out, because this is the very bottom of the pyramid, so we're working to try to figure out how we can, I don't think we want to get it below 10 shillings, because there's nothing you can buy for less than 10 shillings. But how do you manage the economics? And even if we sacrifice, and maybe we could do, we could sacrifice our part of this and say that the rest of the value chain also needs to get some money out of this. It's still going to be at about 2 shillings, but with something which is high up on our agenda, And the central bank has been very, very supportive of M-Pesa from its inception. And so we try to work with them on how best to do that. But please do write to us. It's Bob Collymore at Safaricom.co.uk with the health thing, because we're trying to gather as much as we can to help make a bit of a difference.
The devil untappled now is something that has been mentioned around about, it really has to do with the revenue share stuff. So when it comes down to specifics, Safaricom says as a developer, you're sent out to a PRSP. Basically at the end of the day, you as a developer will get 20 to 30% of the transaction. So out of 10 shillings, you're going to make around 2 shillings. Safaricom makes 50% out of that. If Safaricom can afford to send me 5 SMSs when I don't have airtime, I don't see why should Safaricom take 50% out of the transactions. I know you guys have a great infrastructure and all that, but you have to really consider the developer. That's one thing. Another thing is the payout periods. It's quite long. When we talk to PRSPs, they talk about you have to wait for 60 days, something like that. So transactions that were done today have to wait for them 2 months from now. It's crazy running a business like that. Yeah. So
okay.
And also, just on that same part of the revenue, there is the argument that the more transactions you do, the better the revenue share becomes. But then a business, for me, I see it the other way, because when you're starting out, that's when you really need the money. You have great marketing costs, you have all that. Maybe that's why you need the biggest chunk of the money. Yeah, so the specifics of revenue share, I hope your new platform addresses that, but I also want to hear what you have to say about it.
It's easy for you to sit and say, you're being greedy because you're taking 6 to 7 to 80%. But if we were to swap positions and you had to invest 25 billion shillings this year, then you start to understand that the money doesn't, I don't actually carry that much cash on me. The money doesn't actually come into our pockets. The money actually goes into investing in what is, the best network. And it's not about push. It is the best network in Kenya, and we continue to invest heavily in rolling out the infrastructure. Our marketing spend, we don't actually spend. Our marketing is about 2.5% of revenue, but that's still quite a lot of money. And it is those things which all add up to make this, a money-hungry business. And you're right, when you're starting out, you do need to put the cash into it. But that's just the reality of trying to do business. Our return on investments, as I said, the return that I give to my shareholders, and if you had given me 100 shillings, you're not going to get anything better than 7%. And therefore, if I started to give you less than 7%, you'll take your money elsewhere, the share price will drop, and I don't have a business to run. So that's let me give him a chance to give you the 5, because I think this is not just your question, it's everybody. A lot of people say, why do I keep getting messages when I'm out of credit? And actually, it doesn't cost us any money to send that message, but
Okay. I don't know how technical you want me to be, but generally what happens, as we say that we're also learning a lot about smartphones, and one of the things that smartphones do to the network, especially when you have applications like Facebook that want to update you whenever someone has put in a new status update, is that they always talk to the network, right? And when they talk to the network after so many things, you call it the smartphone effect, right? So it affects the network in several areas, but one of the places it affects the network, when you don't have credit, is also within the billing platform. Now, we are learning from this, and I believe we've made some improvements, and it should be less nowadays. But what was happening previously, right? What was happening is that your phone attempts to look for what we call a quota from the network, right? And the quota is what allows you to browse. So it's almost like a chunk of data. So it goes to the billing platform and asks, give me a chunk of 2 megabytes. and the billing platform says, no, you actually don't have any credits, so I can't give you a chunk, so disconnect, right? But as I say, the smartphone effect, a few seconds later, actually it's a fraction of a second later, the application will try again. Now, each time it goes to the billing platform, somewhere, someone has defined a rule that says that if a customer doesn't have credit, please, and is trying to do a transaction on the system, please be polite enough to inform them via SMS that they don't have credit. And when you receive the 3 SMSs or 5, we're just trying to be polite, but you're also learning, right? So we are also learning from you, and thank you for that. I'll actually go and check if it's still happening. Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to ask one more question, then we're going to open up for 3 more to finish off. Okay, and Jessica has a hard problem of figuring out. Okay, so we have a couple over there. All right, so you've been really great in answering a lot of the questions about access to infrastructure. Zilka, really appreciated your comment there. Now I get to ask a personal beef question. Okay, data bundles expiring. You'll see a tweet from Right African about once a month. It's when my 30 days have expired and I've spent for 1.5 gigs of data, and I know I left like half a gig remaining, and I feel like it's being stolen from me. Okay? And so I say, Safaricom, answer for this.
Okay, the data bundle actually doesn't expire, right? What will expire is your ability to use that particular data. In English. Okay, in English, what I mean is that if we did look at your account, we will still find whatever you had as the 1.5 gig data bundle. And what we ask is that you top up again, and it's a simple, you can even top up with a 50 MB data bundle, right? And it will activate both the 50 and this other one. So it's almost like a service configuration. Yes, we've taken the comments. Yes, it can be looked at and changed from 30 to 60 days, but
So you're holding my data hostage until I buy more.
So let me, you volunteered, I was going to deal with that one. You went straight up. So, what I say to my team is, I love that answer. What I say to my team is, when you go into the petrol station and you put petrol in the car, does the owner of the petrol station say, bring it back on Wednesday, and if you haven't used it, I'll take it out of the car? And the answer is no, he doesn't do that. And so I then say to them, so why the hell are we doing that to our customers? So I'm not going to stand here and be an apologist about it. I'm going to say that you're right. Now, we can't leave it, ad infinitum. So we're going to have to put a period on it. But I think at the moment the period is too short, and we're going to have to fix that. You're absolutely right. And there's a problem in leaving it sitting there ad infinitum. There's a kind of technical problem doing that. But I think 60 days is too short, and asking you're right. I mean, you defined it exactly correctly, which is to say, I'm holding your data hostage until you buy it again. And I think that's wrong, and we are going to fix that.
Finally. I think I'll first take this opportunity to recall the aspects of climbing on a tree, because I'm telling you, it's going to be worse. Now that I've been waiting for long, back at my home in Kiando City, Tetu constituency, I'm out of my house, there is very good network, 3 sticks. I get into the house, 0 sticks. I even wonder whether the stones are kind of a little bit special. Just mark that. All the same, quick. Safaricom, you're good. You are exemplary, as in you're the best network, that's for sure. But there are a bit of some tweaks that I want to put in place. Many of us were developing a lot of apps, and we talk about apps, we talk about coding, but there's one thing that we're forgetting: local content. Mr. Collymore, I recall some time back when you started launching the pins for Bonga Points. It was a total new feature. Everyone was not so sure how to do it. And so I was the first person to actually go to your website. I hit the search button, it didn't bring me anything concerning it. Then at that particular point, I remember there was a review that if I do this review, tell you how the website is and stuff, you are even going to rewrite me with an idiot's form. I did that twice, I've never seen it coming. All the same, after that, I still made the comment that the website search was not bringing me everything, yet there is a small a link down there, bonga points. So I was asking, why is the search not bringing me the bonga points? That's the first thing. But the second thing of all, you mentioned something about trusting you. I really want to trust you, but you're not telling me how. Most of the time when we are on TV, we see how M-Pesa is good over the hills, over the mountains, but you're not telling me what are the exact things that I should know so that I can definitely be sure that I have a sense of assurance in using M-Pesa. One of the things that I thought was, we all have now businesses having business numbers, correct? KPLC have business numbers for prepaid, they have business numbers for postpaid. You're the people who are giving these business numbers. But you do not have a publication, at least, of all the companies that have business numbers, so that if I forget that business number, at least I could go back to it and get it. I have a lot more, but I know that time is not with me, so I'm going to leave it at that.
Zoka looks like you wanted to talk.
Everyone in the Safaricom phone, if you could just go to your keypad, take you through a very simple exercise. Star 234 hash call. You should get a screen that tells you three things. 1, business number. 2, customer service. 3, M-Pesa agent service. So if you reply with 1, you get enter keyword. So let's enter KPLC. We all love to hate. And what you get is KPLC postpaid business number 888-888. How does that work? Now, our failing is communicating that to you and to the public. The reason why we did the survey on the website is because we want to overhaul it and really make it trendier, make it do the search optimization exercise in a way that allows us to complete the loop, to give you information, to generate revenue, and to interact and get your views in terms of setting up a community that allows you to talk to us about our products and services. It allows you to get information about those products and services, allows you to buy those products and services, and allows those products to be kept at a retail outlet. So we're integrating location, shop locator, sort of finder, allow you to find a product. It will tell you the stock levels of an idiot's phone at the junction. It will allow you to part pay and reserve and hold the phone, and it will give you a ticket. The website will become a tool of interaction, not a tool of talking at you, but a tool of talking with you. So if you give us a couple of months, we're actually hoping to be done with this by April. You'll find a simpler website, still with the nice pictures, but much simpler website engineered around the user and not around what we want to tell you.
We've been counting the user M-Pesa to pay our agent network for building our database, which we absolutely would not have been able to do in any other without that mechanism being in place. And you know, I watched the stats from M-Pesa and all the figures quoted, like M-Pesa is now 30% of GDP or 32% of GDP or whatever it is. But I'm wondering, have you ever looked at some of that activity is just existing activity that was going on that wasn't measurable before because it wasn't being fed through this computerized system? Whereas the activity that we do is absolutely new, it didn't exist before. Have you ever tried to quantify, and do you have a number for what percentage of, or what value of M-Pesa's activity is new and is additional to what was going on anyway?
No, we haven't. And the trite answer to that would be that we're just kind of a bit too busy just making it run. But there's a lot of academic stuff that's going on around M-Pesa, I mean, all over the world. And we leave it up to them to do it. But, you know, we don't have to sell M-Pesa anymore, we just have to make it work. And we're busy trying to do that right now.
Okay, so we're going to have 2 more questions. I lied, I said 3 earlier, but we'll do 4. So we have 1 here, and then Mbuga, you'll be last. Okay.
Posters for Doctari. And the first thing I noticed about it was that it was 20 shillings a minute. And the first thing that I thought of was that that is definitely not affordable for anyone in the rural areas. And having lived in a hut in South Nyanza for a year, I'm wondering what type of initiatives you have to keep the basic services like SMS and voice as low as possible in cost for the people who actually really, really need it.
I'll just take you through our reasoning very briefly. When some of the stats mentioned earlier in the discussion alluded to, you have about 4.5 million data-enabled handsets on the network. Only 1 million of those are 3G, and of the total number, there's a negligible percentage that actually use data. And the question for us was beyond the data belt, beyond Nairobi and the urban centers where you can easily do cherry picking, how do we bring more people into the telecommunications fold? And we had a 3-pronged attack. Digital inclusion, in the same way we've done, we're working on financial inclusion, is to look at those who cannot access the service and reach out to them in 3 ways. 1 is to give them services that revolve around health. 2 is to look at services that revolve around agriculture. And then 3, services that revolve around access to education. Now, that will only happen in totality as the system, as the ecosystem that we are trying to work with here starts getting more integrated to Safaricom. When we did the Daktari 1525, we were working using statistics, and those statistics were telling us that, you know, you're in a country of 40 million people. You have total, if I include vets, dentists, pathologists, pharmacists, anyone in a white coat, you're looking at less than 5,000 in Kenya. If you, 5,000 people, the ratio of medical professionals to citizens is 1 medical professional to every 11,000. Now, it means most people in Kenya will never see a doctor in their lives. That is what motivated us to start this. When we initially brought in the medical professionals that we are working with, we're working with a group of doctors called Dialadoc. We were looking at the very high level, how do we get this product started? And the reason why it came to digital inclusion is because we were not looking at it from a margin analysis, from a profitability perspective. We were saying, this is the right thing to do. If we can get the basics right, and we get people, number 1, to pick up the phone and call a doctor and feel like they've had a useful interaction, and they feel that they've taken away something. Yesterday, just going back through calls that came into the call center, there's one call that cut midway. You know, the lady called and said, my husband is not waking up. And she kept going into a panic, and she's like, what do I do? What do I do? And the doctor started walking her through the process, and then the credit cut. And the question for us was to call back, not to call back. What to do? The doctor actually just, because he didn't have the caller ID coming through on his phone, because he was virtual, he was actually doing rounds in the ward at the time. He had to call back to us and say, look, I've received a call a couple of minutes ago. I think this lady is in distress. You guys need to find a number, and we need to call her and find out what's going on. So the issue of tariff became a hot issue this morning, and saying, look, guys, we need to really do now the margin analysis. Look at the cost of setup. Look at the doctors, because for the doctors, they also see this as a revenue opportunity. A lot of the doctors we have are medical practitioners in the public service. You recently know what the scenario was in the public service as far as medics were concerned. So for them, they were saying, look, we would like a way to share our skills and find a way to reach the mwananchi. The challenge for us is how low can we go without subsidizing? And if it does involve a subsidy, will the business case stand on its own 2 legs? Will it be of commercial value to the point that we don't need to subsidize it? and it will exist 5 years down the road, or it would have evolved into something useful. But I take your point, you are right on all counts, but I just wanted to share with you the reasoning of why we went into that initiative. We initially set a target of 20 shillings because we were looking at remunerating most of the money goes to the medics and to the routing costs, because some of the medics are not even on our network, to be honest, and we're routing calls to them, just to make sure that we have a good caller to doctor ratio maintained throughout. But you can be quite certain as we gain scale, the first thing we will look at is looking at lowering that tariff and making it more affordable. We even shortened the intro just to make sure that your money doesn't get eaten listening to our marketing spin. Thanks.
Thank you, Zaka.
My question is for Bob and maybe Zioka. Everyone gets a Safaricom line without reading the fine print. Remember when you used to get the pack, it used to come with a small booklet and you had to read fine print, right? So people sign up to M-Pesa without really understanding the fine print. And my question is from a business perspective. Sometimes we develop products that say if we run it on SMS, it's not profitable. So we switch to using channels like M-Pesa to do the collections and stuff like that. My question is that fine print in M-Pesa that empowers Safaricom to come in and say, okay, fine, Bugwa, your service is making a lot of money. I think we will change your particular tariff. I think you know where I'm coming from with this, but is there a fine print in M-Pesa that would make me as a business person need to be extra careful, even depending on how I innovate? Because if you tell me revenue on say SMS is 50-50, and if I spin my product and make it available through M-Pesa payment, do I need to be afraid?
We have information, we have music, we have gaming, lottery, and gaming lottery is Tazama Chapa. You know, some guys have been tweeting me, Bogo I think specifically. You then have the more sensitive issue of mobile gambling, which, to be honest, we still remain extremely uncomfortable about. But because we are required to provide interconnection to all licensed premium rate service providers, we do so with a caveat. And the bulk of our revenue share is actually 70-30 in favor of the developer when the volumes exceed a certain threshold. I think the threshold is at 50,000, 0 to 50,000. Now, gaming and lottery, irrespective of where you transact with Safaricom, will be 50-50 revenue share. And you get the small print. As a premium rate service provider, if you do come and ask for a business number on M-Pesa, and the business number relates to a service that you're running that has any gaming and lottery aspect, you will be confronted with the same revenue share discussion. But by and large, the pay bill number is as a stated fee. If you're just running a regular business and using pay bill to collect your receivables, then you just get charged the regular fee. But if there's a gaming element and a lottery element to it, we do add this premium. And a lot of that premium goes to risk cover. Because gaming, as far as we are concerned, mobile gaming, electronic gaming in Kenya is highly under-regulated. There's too many gaps. There's potential exposure to minors. And these are things that we remain concerned about. We've raised them with all regulators, both from the lottery end and from the CCK. So we do expect to see tighter guidelines around this going forward. If for no other reason, to protect customers from jamming our call center to say, I have bought a ticket, I haven't won, or the lottery was a scam, and guys have lost their money, and they think we were part and parcel of it. Yes, we've collected our revenue share. That's true, we've taken our revenue share. But we're not the ones running the promo, we're not the ones licensing them to do betting. So we've taken a decision to really be very risk averse when we're dealing with promos and lotteries. And so you shouldn't really expect any lack of transparency. And if you do not, if you find those terms and conditions do not look like something you want to deal with, let's negotiate.
Okay, thank you so much, Nzoka. This has been a really good time, the last 2 hours. I want to say thank you for your, oh yes, here. Please.
Right, so, but before, because you're going to say thank you very much for coming and stuff, I just wanted to say that for us, actually, it was, for the ones who are new here, this is your first time. You know, it's been enlightening meeting you guys. This is the first step in a longer journey, I hope. I'm going to be recruiting, and I think I have to recruit, I don't think I've got the skills in the organization, recruiting a head of innovation. And then, you know, I want to kind of really engage properly with you guys for your input onto how we drive it forward. I don't want to have an innovation department, but, you know, I think somebody said earlier, you know, why don't we set up I can't remember who it was, why don't we set up, you know, an ambassador who comes here. But, you know, we were going to put the responsibility on the one person, you know, like, probably one of you guys. The ones who want to get their hands up. But, you know, we do genuinely, and I stand here genuinely, I don't ask you to trust me necessarily, but we stand here genuinely to say that we do want to positively engage with you. We're not going to do everything you want. You know, the revenue share on gaming, you know, we may not budget that, stuff like that. We may not give you the revenue share that you want, but we do want to engage so that we can monetize this relationship much better. And you know, we just to demonstrate that we do actually want to work with the iHub team. With effect from the 1st of February, we would like, if you will permit us to do so, we'd like to give you 10 megabits of 10 MBs of access. I know you've got. And you know, as soon as we can thereafter, we want to give you, and this is without cost, obviously. We want to give you GPON access because you know, we think the work we do here is good, and even if we don't take any of the stuff here, you know, we do think it's good, and we think it's good for the industry. If it's good for the industry, then it's going to be good for us. So, you know, I want to say thank you very much, you all sitting so patiently, for laughing at some of my jokes, and for also inviting and hosting us. So thank you very much.